one of the things in talking about Charlie Kirk now, and I don't want to make this all about that because everyone else is going to be talking about him, but one of the things with one of his last public posts being about the Blessed Mother, it started having me thinking, and I was talking with you, and I was talking with my mother, St Rita, about the Visitation, and Mary going off when she gets the news about, her baby, coming, and she's found out that was it her cousin?
It was her cousin.
Elizabeth was her cousin?
First cousin, yeah.
But she was so much older.
She was older, but yeah, nonetheless was her first cousin, I think.
So there was a long line with her parents and having babies or something. Maybe they were the end of their. Elizabeth, you're right. Elizabeth shouldn't have been able to have children. Well, if Elizabeth was like a grandmotherly type age, and I don't know exactly how old she was supposed to be.
I'm not sure either.
But she was supposed to be barren.
Right.
So she'd gone through her menopause and all the chaos that goes with that. Right. So Zachary's thinking, I got it made now. She's out of the woods. Okay?
Yeah.
So
unbeknownst to him.
And then Zachary finds out that there's a baby coming, and he's going, what? And so
he lost his voice. Right?
And so God says, well, I'm not going to listen to what all day long. I'm just going to take his voice away. So Zachary can't say anything. And so Zachary's having this moment like, what the hell is going on? How is my wife, who's been barren for all this time, now is having a baby?
Yeah, because he was not informed that
the guys are the last to know.
Right.
And so I'm thinking how funny this is for him. And then I'm thinking about Joseph's situation.
Same thing, he was right.
Joseph's going through this. He gets Mary over to go visit with her cousin.
And what happened?
For 3 months.
Right.
Okay, because she gets her about 6 months with Elizabeth, right?
Correct.
So she's supposed to stay the last 3 months till the baby's born, and then the presentation and all like this happens.
Right, 3 or 4 months, and then she's showing is what happens.
And then Mary's got the bump. And Joseph comes around to pick her up and goes,
First
something's
of all,
different here. What happened?
I don't think it's. My eyes are deceiving me, and oops, I'm getting bigger.
Been eating pretty good here, huh? Life on the farm is pretty.
I wonder why that it was held back from them, that they weren't.
Well, I think nature has to run its course, and this is how faith was built in these two guys. But they were the last ones to be told, what the story was.
Right.
The women are all in on it because they're physically changing day by day.
Right.
But nothing's happening with the guys, except for Zachary has basically said, you don't need to ask any questions here on this thing, and we're just going to shut you down for a little bit. I think he gets his voice back later on, doesn't he?
I think he gets it back when they reveal to him what the deal is, as far as, that his son is going to be the precursor to Christ. And I think that also when, I think he's informed of the Messiah just before his death.
He had to know about that ahead of time because he lasted like 3 years.
Did he?
Yeah. Zachary lived like another 3 years or so. And Elizabeth, she didn't make it much longer than that. She died shortly after he did.
Right.
And so John was left alone.
He's 3 years old, yeah.
Well, 3 to 5, somewhere in that. I was trying to figure out. And so he's somewhere in this, like, he's off. He doesn't need the nipple anymore for milk. So he's eating hard foods and stuff like this. So John is alone, and they're like in the desert. They're at this other property that they had. It was like Hebron or something like that.
Yeah, he was in. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think
it was something like that. Hebron or
he was in the desert, and I think angels helped him. Blessed Mother helped him throughout the period. From 3 years old to, I think he was 30 years old, or maybe a little bit younger, and talking about the Messiah is here, and he was
well, he started his stuff he'd have been about 28.
Okay,
he was
it's a precursor, right?
Because he was baptizing, and he was originally known as John the Immerser. He didn't become John the Baptist until like the 1500s.
Okay.
When the French came up with the word baptism. Otherwise, he had never been John the Baptist. He was always known as John the Immerser because he would dunk them in the water. But the word baptism didn't come around until like the 1500s. So, but anyway, but John was basically raised feral on his own with the help of this angel who, up until a certain time, John would get 2 meals a day from the angel, would make sure he ate twice a day. Up until a certain age, then he only got 1 meal a day. Then he was supposed to be able to go out and forage on his own, bring in his own food, and things like that. He was coming of age.
Right.
So probably got to his early teens. They said, okay, that's enough of the coddling. You're going to get 1 meal a day, but
get the rest on your own.
Right. Learn to navigate this world.
He was in pretty much isolation for most of his life before he arrived on the scene, but isolation.
Well, the question I have with this isolation that's going on at this time, and we're going to call St Rita on this then too, because I want to have your two collective minds, because you both read, this is all coming out of the Mystical City of God through the Incarnation volume, which was, I think, volume 2, okay,
yes,
of the series. So anyway, but during this whole situation, John is growing, and not only physically, but he's also growing spiritually. And I was wondering, how did John get his formation? If father died and mother died when he was so young, was this divinely inspired into him to drop down?
Yeah, that's what it says. Mystical.
Okay, so it is covered.
When he was in his mother's womb at 6 months, and then Mother Mary came with Jesus, infused knowledge, a couple things, that they had to have dispensations because he was still surrounded by sin and darkness. So that had to be taken away from him. It was a special gift that they gave him.
You mean from the original sin type of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't baptized himself?
No, not yet.
Well, I was just wondering if he was
probably in a way of the Holy Spirit.
I was wondering if there was a way that the Holy Spirit baptized him to start with.
That would be a way
to purify the vessel, if you will.
Yeah, No, exactly. That's how it would be recognized. So when that movement, when Mother Mary came and Elizabeth, the two kids were interfacing with each other
in the womb.
And the movement was John got on his knees and prayed before. Right. So, and that was all, the infused knowledge and the special dispensations in terms of original sin. And he could even think and reason and talk, but I think there was almost like telepathy going between them.
Well, there had to be, because how was Jesus speaking to Mary as an infant, as a baby at 6 months old?
Right.
There had to be a telepathy that was going on.
That's right, yeah.
Even when he says, hey, mother, I need some clothing. You can't keep carrying around in a blanket all the time, I need some clothes. It's time.
Yeah, they even discussed, what color, and I don't want anything too elaborate. And she said, we're going to get the wool that's a little more easier on you. And he goes, well, it's okay if you get the wool that's tough on me, But she's a mother, wants to give him nice things and things that,
he said, I don't need nice underwear.
Yeah, something like that, you know what I mean? But he would yield to his mother because he loved his mother and she loved him. I mean, it was that's what with the holiness going on between this family and extended family is like.
Well, I don't think he wanted to cause more anxiety for her, with this. It's going to be all right, woman. Okay, thank you.
Right.
This is, that's plenty. Thank you.
A lot of it revolved around clothes because that one garment grew with him as he grew.
And his shoes.
Right.
She wove, because he didn't want shoes. He says, I don't need shoes. She goes, yeah, you're going to need shoes.
Right.
So she wove him some sandals. And those grew with him then too. He never replaced his sandals or his robe.
Yeah.
And that's why the soldiers gambled for it at the foot of the cross, because they didn't want to cut it up because it was too nice a piece of cloth.
I wonder where that is now. I wonder if that still exists.
I have no idea.
It would be a hell of a relic. I mean, just a beautiful relic.
Well, if it was miraculous then, it's probably miraculous now. It's probably still looking, near new.
Or they forgot it when they sent it in for cleaning at
The Chinese kept it. You
Chinese.
know, oh, gonna need more Calgon. Okay. You silly Jew people. You bring the stuff. You forget ticket. You forget no ticket, no wash. You know, so, could you imagine that? I'll get your ticket. Yeah, I got your ticket right here. So, well, anyway, those are the kind of thoughts I've got right now. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my phone and I'm going to call up St. Rita here, and you can kind of lay in the groundwork a little bit. Maybe you got something to
Okay, yeah, I'll read a little bit
base
to
on.
it.
I'll try to get this going.
It says that St. John was the third one for whom our Redeemer made special petitions since his presence in the womb of his mother. His mother was the first for whom he gave thanks and prayed to the Father. Next in order was her spouse, St. Joseph, for whom the incarnate Word offered up his prayers, as we have said in the 12th chapter. And the third one was from the precursor of St. John, with whom the Lord mentioned by name in his prayers to the Father. Such was the great good.
I'm going to try to get St. Rita on the line here. Hello,
Hello.
St. Rita.
What?
I said St. Rita.
Yes.
How are you today?
Okay.
Is this a good day?
It is for me.
Okay. Well, let's keep it like that. So
Yeah.
I'm in the studio with our friend Alex right now, and we sort of opened up the can of discussion about Mary going to visit Elizabeth, her cousin,
Yeah.
during this.
Kathy is here now, so I can't talk right now.
Okay. Well,
I'll go.
Well,
I'll get gas.
no, wait a minute.
I'll get gas.
Kathy's leaving.
okay. we will alert the authorities.
Okay. Now I can talk.
Okay. So.
Okay.
All right. Kathy is my younger sister who's over visiting with my mother, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she has left the room, so now St. Rita is free to talk about her.
Yeah.
But no, we're not going to do that. But we were talking about Mary's visit with Elizabeth and how Zachary and Joseph were both kind of left out of the loop a little bit,
Yeah.
but heaven had a way of dealing with them and their manly ignorance. But we were also talking a little bit about how Zachary dies and then Elizabeth dies, and then John is basically on his own to live with the assistance of the angel.
In Berlin or wherever they are. They're not at home.
Right, there is like Hebron or something like that, or
Hebron.
they're in Hebron?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you said that they had a property someplace, so
They've had property all over. They were rich.
they were rich, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
so they didn't need help from Mary or Joseph. They just needed.
They just had to get out of Dodge. You know?
Oh yeah, with the baby thing and Herod wanting to kill all the firstborn.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we got that all going on. But Alex, did you have a question to add in with St. Rita as far as her perception on things?
No, I think that it's a pivotal. As I go through the mystical city, I see almost four or five chapters that are dedicated to this.
Yes. Right.
Right, Rita? I mean, it's really apparently a very important subject.
Oh, it's a huge story because
Yes.
and I think it tells a lot about how the Holy Spirit works in normal people in strange circumstances.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Mary and Elizabeth knew what was going on. I mean, their bodies are
Yeah,
physically
yeah.
changing day by day. you know. But Joseph and Zachary are kind of like left to figure it out, guys. You know, and Zachary's probably just going, but they said, well, we're not going to listen to that. We're just going to take your voice away. And I don't know why would the Holy Spirit take away Zachary's voice?
Because he doubted that his wife was pregnant. She said, how can she be pregnant? She's not fertile.
Well, which is kind of, don't you think that's kind of normal?
Well, it was, but God didn't like it, so he struck it tough. He said, I can do anything, and if you don't believe it, believe it. So, yeah.
Well, I just
So
think he probably wanted to quiet down Zachary so he didn't upset Elizabeth and lose the baby.
Mute.
Yeah, we don't need to hear from you. Just keep the milk coming in, and we're gonna need some diapers. You work on that.
So what was the most profound event that you learned in reading about the Visitation? Rita, what would you say really sticks with you? One or two things that are quite remarkable.
I don't know what you're talking about. What you mean?
Well, we're talking about things that stood out that you thought were remarkable points of the story that aren't covered in the Bible. And because the Bible doesn't say too much about this, just says she went to visit with her,
Cousin Elizabeth.
right.
Yeah,
And then they don't tell you anything about the details. But when we get into the details, was there anything that surprised you? I know there's a couple things you told me that I found hilarious.
Well, the whole thing was hilarious, I thought.
Right.
But this was how long afterwards that it happened. This is the 15th century?
Right.
Well, that they're writing about it.
Yes.
But part of the reason for that delay, I think, was that had these things come out earlier in the growth of the church and its formation, that the people in the church would have wanted to make Mary more into a deity type of thing. And I think she was smart enough to know that couldn't happen. And so she would rather, just like she gave up the reward of heaven to come back to earth to help start the church, she gave up the rewards or the problems of the acclaim for the sake of making sure that she wasn't elevated to a point past veneration. She did not want to be worshipped and still doesn't want to be worshipped. But veneration, acknowledging who she is, that's cool. But it is hilarious what's going on with her. I mean, let's talk about the guys first, because that's the obvious, thing. Zachary loses his voice because he's not believing. How can my wife, who's been, dry for all these years, have a baby? This doesn't work.
Right.
This isn't natural.
Did she tell him that it was the cause of a miracle? Did Saint Elizabeth tell Zachariah that, look, I'm pregnant, or was he just left?
I don't know. They never said anything about.
Okay, yeah, neither. I can't recall that.
At all.
She never had the moment at dinner. She says, "You need to sit down, honey. I need to tell you something."
Oh, you would think.
Yeah, we got to have a talk.
She was 6 months pregnant by the time Mary got to her.
Correct.
So
yeah, but what about?
Yeah.
But it was probably after 3 months she realized something was going on.
Well, yeah. Before that,
She got morning sickness.
Well, I think maybe God was talking to her too. So
There's a whole.
Elizabeth was a holy woman too.
Well, there's a whole nother book
Right.
to talk about. Elizabeth's story. But okay, so we got Zachary speaking out.
What was Zachary? We got to assume he was having sex with his wife.
Well, yeah, why not? I mean,
60
maybe.
years old.
Yeah, but she's been barren for all this time.
I'll take it.
Well, if he'd been having sex with her for 20 years past her being barren, and nothing. All of a sudden,
what's going on?
This is what I do different. What was the moon? Where was the moon?
Just a minor thought.
Well, she says, I'm pregnant. He says, well, where was I?
Yeah.
It's like,
He's,
so,
he says, we always like to smoke after sex. He goes, I still got my pack of cigarettes, and she's 3 or 4 packs of or whatever.
she's puffing on straw over here. But then Joseph gets the same thing. So he's coming around. When did Joseph find out that Mary was going to have a baby?
In a dream.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
when
but
was the dream after
he
he'd been?
hadn't done anything. Zachary knew he'd been screwing her, so she straightened her. But Joseph knew he wasn't screwing Mary, so he didn't know where it came from.
I love your.
So,
Well, it's true. And,
It's right.
And so when did Joseph actually find out? When did he have this visit? Was it after he'd gone to see Mary for the 3 months? Or was it?
yes, when they were on their way home.
Okay, so he's mind blown. He goes, well, something's different about you. You know.
Yeah, he sees she's heavier.
Right.
No, what the heck were they doing there?
You got a bambino going on here.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so Joseph is having this mind expansion. And the women have got to be just like looking at each other and kind of laughing.
You would think.
Yeah.
Like, these poor dumb guys, you know.
Yes. Nobody was laughing.
Well,
Wasn't funny.
Elizabeth is spanking Mary on the butt, sending her home with Joseph, saying, nice seeing you, kid, because Elizabeth had to be like almost like a grandmother to Mary in age.
In age.
Yeah.
Because Mary's only like 15 or 16.
Right.
And we got to
right.
say that Elizabeth has to probably be at least, 60?
Right.
I mean,
You would think, yeah.
for the sake of argument, we don't really know.
Right.
But so that's a big difference there between the 60-year-old cousin and the 12-year-old or 15-year-old cousin getting together.
Yeah. Right.
You know, the only thing they got in common is that they're both preggers,
Right.
and they got,
And we know how that happens.
and they got confused guys.
Right. We know how pregnancy happens. And they're pregnant. And so, you know, with the exception, her age might be in here somewhere, but well, here we have. Obviously, he could have sanctified them or given them the information or whatever. So, I suppose the question is, what was God's motive in allowing this to be not privy to them? In other words, they weren't in on the joke, or they weren't in on God's intentions of for both of these babies. Eventually they were, but this seems to be a mystery. Why does God do certain things and why does not? You know, maybe it wasn't necessary for them to be involved in it. You know.
Well, why did he make a 3-toed sloth and a 4-toed sloth?
Why?
Wasn't one sloth enough? You know, I don't know.
Right. That's
You know,
right. Right.
But I think God, heaven has a wonderful sense of humor. And I think that these things here, because the Bible doesn't go into it much, and you got to go to these other works to get the details, the story behind the story, which comes out. But you got to realize these were people. Okay,
That's right.
These weren't elegant beings beyond our
Everyday
own path.
Everyday good.
So imagine if this happened to you. These men were exhibiting their natural responses, as did the women. Mary says, how can it be? I do not know man.
Right. That's right.
Those others said, what are you talking about? I gave up the baby laundry 20 years ago.
Right.
Did she have other kids before that?
No, she never had any.
So she'd been barren her whole life. So she never had kids.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
well
right.
then
She's right.
that's a whole other layer to the onion.
Sure. Yeah, now you're going to have one, right? How does that happen?
Well, Zachary's got to be thinking, was I the problem? Was I the one who was barren?
Well,
Now
that's
she's
another-
knocking boots with somebody
That
else.
could be.
You know, what's he thinking?
No, sure. We haven't had kids all this time. Now you're barren. Now you got one.
Right, now she's pulling a Princess Diana on me? What?
There's this guy named Tony. He gives you big
I mean, Tony shows up. Yeah. You never trust the Sicilians.
Well, they're regular people. They're everyday people. So they're you know, this is happening. And
God's showing his power in this moment, says, I can do anything.
Right.
You know, you want to be pregnant? I can make you pregnant too.
Right.
You know, we may have to wait 2,000 years for the doctors and everyone to decide that a man can have a baby, but, you know,
Right.
God saying, on my watch, no.
Right.